Celtics get the win in Denver, finish the road trip strong, maybe the best Porzingis has looked so far this season. And I'll tell you why the Celtics' confidence is building right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Jrue to KP, tap in daily. Primetime Devin D. White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I got you covered every day, Monday through Friday. Bonus podcast when they play on a Friday or a Saturday. Like this Friday, they play the Sacramento Kings at home. I'll be there. I will be podcasting after that game as well. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your audio podcast. Watch the show on YouTube, subscribe there as well. Get into the comment section, share your thoughts with me, with other Celtics fans. Let me know what you're thinking about the Celtics beating the Denver Nuggets, finishing the road trip 3-1, or whatever I've been saying, am saying, or whatever. If you're new to the show, I'm John Karalis. I have been covering the Boston Celtics for about 20 years now and doing it as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal, so you can read my stuff there. Would love it if you shared the podcast with your friends. Would love it if you subscribe to our new daily newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. All of that stuff would be great. Celtics get the win 118-106. Later on, I'll talk about the confidence building in the Celtics, and this is a successful road trip. All of that coming up. I want to start with saying this was the Celtics beating the Denver Nuggets with no Jokic. There was no Derek White. There's no Jordan Walsh. Everybody was sick. Whatever was happening over in Denver, please do not bring it back to Boston. I'm going to be in that locker room on Friday night. I do not want to get sick. We don't want the whole team getting sick. So whatever's going on, keep it there in Denver. But yeah, no Jokic. That was a late scratch. And so I think right off the bat, the Celtics came out hot, 15-point lead in the first quarter. That went away in the second quarter. And I think there was some, look, it wasn't great. It was not the most fluid game. This was not a start to finish kind of like, wow, what a great game. It is a really good win for the Boston Celtics. Regardless, look, it's the end of a long road trip. They got a win. They finished strong in altitude. It's always tough. It's why Denver generally has a really good home court advantage. They had their moments where they didn't look great, but they snapped out of it. And so it is a good win and a strong finish. And the thing with not having Jokic, a couple of guys said it after the game, they play differently without Jokic. And it's very easy to say, you look at the Nuggets and go, oh, well, they are this with Jokic. They're plus $1 million with Jokic and minus $1 million without him. It's not the same exact thing and they didn't have Aaron Gordon either, but it's not the same thing because those non-Jokic minutes when he plays are like bench units. And this was more of the starting unit. And it's not the exact same guys who are on the floor in those non-Jokic minutes. And Porzingis said it. I think Tatum said it. They do play a different style, and they played free. They shot a bunch. They, I think, had like a little bit of an outlier shooting night. I say a little bit of an outlier shooting night. Russell Westbrook was 4 of 7 from 3. So that is the ultimate, or 4 of 9 from 3. That is the outlier shooting night. They shot 14 of 36. For a while there, they were shooting somewhere north of like 40%. The Celtics lose the 3-point battle again, actually, and only shoot 35, by the way. This was, people are talking about how they shoot 45 and 50 and whatever per game. They only shot 35 because they had 60 points in the paint. And that's another, I think, product of no Jokic there and no Gordon. They were able to get to the point, the paint easily. They were able to finish inside easily. Kristaps Porzingis was able to do that very well. He had 15 points in the first quarter and was very clearly the best Porzingis performance that we've seen since he's come back. It's not a huge sample size, but without Jokic there, it did allow Porzingis to take advantage of a lot of mismatches and to go against guys that maybe he could use. I don't want to say strength. Look, Porzingis is big. He's not the strongest dude in the world. He gets pushed off his spot. There's a reason why his post ups are as high as they are. Part of it is by design. Part of it is, he doesn't like hold his position extraordinarily well on the blocks, right? He's not a traditional post up player. His post up numbers are different, but he was able to take advantage of some of the mismatches. And if Jokic was in there defending him, it wouldn't have been the same type of Porzingis performance. Would he have still scored 15 in the first quarter? Hard to say. Who knows? Maybe. But the Celtics were able to go to that early. He was able to set a tone early. Jayson Tatum was there with him, scoring 11 in the first quarter. So it was basically Tatum and Porzingis, and Horford hit a couple of shots, but notably Jaylen Brown was scoreless in the first half. No, actually not scoreless in the first half. Scoreless in the first quarter. He had 2 free throws in the second quarter. So he didn't hit a basket in the first half. Only 2 points at halftime. So it was all Tatum, all Porzingis. The second quarter was where things got a little slippery for Boston. Jamal Murray, credit to him. That was vintage Jamal Murray. I'm sure there are people in Denver who are looking at that like, hey, whoa, can we bottle that second quarter Jamal Murray and get that all the time? Because that would be very helpful for the Denver Nuggets. I think there are a couple of things going on defensively. Like I don't think they were very crisp. I think they were very, very much ignoring Russell Westbrook. I think they were okay with certain guys shooting 3-pointers, and those guys started to make 3-pointers, especially Westbrook. And they got a little discombobulated. They didn't play. They didn't play Murray with the kind of physicality that they needed to. He kind of got to his spots and he hit some tough shots. He hit some really tough shots, and that got him going. And that got, I think, the whole team going confidence-wise. In the third quarter, Jaylen Brown was able to not only wake up in the third quarter offensively, but also he started to defend Murray a lot more closely, outright denying him. So that was a nice adjustment in the second half. Third quarter, Jaylen Brown was awesome, 4 of 4, no 3-point attempts, 8 points in the quarter for him. Now, Jaylen, I should mention, in the first half, even though he only had those 2 points, he did end up with 5 assists, and that was that came a little bit later in the second quarter. He had 3 of those assists. It wasn't his best quarter necessarily. That was a stretch there in that second quarter where Joe Mazzulla went with Nemish Queta, and of course, Queta had a tough few minutes. I'm like, this isn't working. This is a tough stretch for him. This is not a good choice. And then as soon as I said this is not a good choice, Queta scored like 4 buckets in a row. He had a 2-3 minute stretch where it was like, oh, okay, then I'm just going to shut up now. So, but that stretch there was where Jaylen and Queta kind of woke up a little bit, and the Celtics lost that quarter by 12. It could have been worse, actually. So that was an important stretch there to set the tone there for a second half where the Celtics were able to string some, get a little bit of a run together. They won the quarter by 5. the Nuggets shooting cooled off. The Celtics were again attacking the rim, 20 points in the paint in that quarter. They were starting to get out in transition a little bit. Couple of steals, couple of big rebounds. Jrue Holiday finding Tatum and Brown in transition a couple of times. Holiday had 4 assists in that quarter. In fact, Jrue Holiday was kind of like the underrated superstar in this game. The talk is going to be about Porzingis, deservedly so. The talk will be about Tatum, who had a big scoring night and was really attacking the paint, attacking the basket well. Holiday it's kind of funny. He had a big fourth quarter, yet he's going to be the underrated star there. Let's talk about his numbers and his performance when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by Ultimate College Basketball HC. Yeah, this is a brand new mobile game that's really exciting. The Ultimate College Basketball HC. If you've ever dreamed of being a college basketball head coach, this is your chance to step into those shoes. In Ultimate College Basketball HC, you control every detail of your program, from recruiting players to hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps, handling NIL deals, and managing scholarship. It's all in your hands. When it comes to game time, you get to drop offensive plays and set your strategy. That way, the way you play won't just affect your current season. It'll shape the future of your school's program. It's a game that lets you feel the full weight of what it means to be a head coach and lead your team to glory. There's a special offer. There's a special offer for you, the Locked On Celtics listener. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCBB, all caps, inside the game store to get a free boost for your program. It's the perfect way to kickstart your coaching career. Download Ultimate College Basketball HC. Just do that at ultimate-cbb.com or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Basketball HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. You'll notice 2 podcasts on the audio feed. One of them, Locked On Celtics Postcast. Locked On Celtics Postcast is done. Steve Lennox fires up a live show on Locked On Sports Boston, the YouTube page. You can join him live after the show if you'd like. The audio then gets uploaded to this show. While he's doing that, I'm going through all the post-game stuff, and I'm giving you an in-depth, full deep dive into the game you just watched. That audio also on Locked On Celtics, so make sure you're looking at both. If you're going through, you say, what's the 2 thing? You'll see 2. The artwork is even different in a lot of these apps, so that's the difference there. Make sure you're downloading both, and of course, Locked On Celtics YouTube stays the same. Jrue Holiday had 10 points in the fourth quarter. He finished with 19 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, a couple of steals, a block. A big game from Holiday. But that second half was huge. The fourth quarter was big. He had a couple of big shots. They don't win this game without Holiday. 15 points in the second half, so 15 of his 19, a plus 15 in the second half. The five of the assists, a steal, 5 of 9 overall in the second half, 3 of 6 shooting from 3. That was really important because the Celtics kind of flipped the 3-point shooting. The second half, Denver shooting was 5 of 18 from 3. That was much more like it, right? Even though Westbrook went 2 of 5 as a 40% shooting night, they got nothing in the second half from Michael Porter Jr. Jamal Murray only scored 4 points in the second half, so the defense there in the second half was really really strong. But Holiday leading the Celtics with, the 3 of 6 from 3 was big. So like I said before, there are other storylines that you're going to follow throughout this look, they got the big game from Porzingis. There's the 3-1 road trip that, I'll talk about in just a second, and all of this other stuff, the confidence that the Celtics are building. Holiday's performance is going to probably slip through the cracks, and it shouldn't, because this was a game. There were a couple of games like in the playoffs last year game one against was it game one against the Indiana Pacers, maybe a couple of games like in the NBA Finals, maybe game one of the finals. There were a couple of games in the playoffs where Holiday just felt like the adult in the room, where the Celtics were going through some of the stuff that we had known them to do, late kind of swoons, slippages. And Holiday was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna be like, I don't want to call him the dad, but he's the guy who's like, okay, you know what, guys, let me just grab a couple of these offensive rebounds. Let me just make a couple of these plays and settle us down because we're starting to do this thing. And if we keep doing this thing, we're going to lose. And this kind of had shades of that for me. Uh, in the fourth quarter where the Celtics, 5 minutes to go, it felt like, and they were talking about on the broadcast, it's like you pulled the ripcord on the parachute a couple of minutes too early, and you're like, let's just speed this up again. And that was part of their big close. They had a 15-0 run in that fourth quarter. So third quarter, you build a lead. Fourth quarter, the Nuggets make a little bit of a run. They tie it up at 93. Celtics whip off a 15-0 run, and that's the game. But that 15-0 run was followed by a 7-0 Denver run because the Celtics were starting to milk the clock a little bit. And it's one of their bad habits that still resurfaces. They go into clock killing mode just a touch too soon. And you don't want that to happen. So they started pushing it again after that. Holiday was part of that. And that's why they were able to close strong and get this win. Ultimately, it's an up and down game. It's not the cleanest game in the world. As Porzingis said after the game, give it a 7.5 out of 10. But it's a win. It's a 12-point win. They ended up going into the game favored by 10.5. Look, when the odds makers or ultimately the betting line moves to 10.5, that's a big line. 10.5 points is a big line in a basketball game. To cover that, you've done well. And it doesn't matter how you got there. All that matters is that you got there. And, I always make that joke. Like if two people leave, I leave the house and you leave the house at the same time, and we're going to the same place, and we just take two different routes. If I get there first and you're like, oh, wow, you made good time. I say, yep, I did. And you don't have to know a thing about how I got there. Just matters that I got there. And that's it. The Celtics got there. And it might have been dicey, but it ultimately is a 12-point win. And it's the third win out of 4 games on the road, and 3 good games. Two really. Minnesota game was really good. Houston win was really, really good. I love that win. OKC first half was great, and then we know what happened. And then this game, a little up and down, but it was a good win. So let's talk about that 3-1 road trip when I come back, and this confidence that is building within the Celtics. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. We all love going to live events. I think they're a lot of fun. I like going to concerts, obviously tons of sporting events. But, look, my wife likes going to the theater. We like going to comedy shows. We can go to any of those using the Game Time app. Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My wife used the ticket game time to get tickets to the Patriots finale, which they won, and set off this wild chain of events where they are looking for a new head coach and their draft pick dropped and all of that stuff. But it was a great Christmas gift to get those tickets, and the amazing deals We're there in the Game Time app. With Game Time picks, you can find the amazing deals, even see the view of the seat from the app while you're buying it. The super deal is particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Hey, remember, download the Ultimate Celtics newsletter. It's right there on LockedOnDaily.com. LockedOnDaily.com. Go check it out. Get it to your inbox Monday through Friday. Celtics, NBA, and fantasy coverage, plus links to all the great Celtics content that you're going to want. It's directly to your inbox. It's free. Sign up, open it up, read it, and enjoy a great newsletter. So I said it before we went to the break there, but Celtics get that 3-1 trip. I thought it was going to be a 3-1 trip. I was confident in the Celtics being able to get these 3 wins. I didn't think it was going to go this way. I thought it was going to be beat Minnesota, lose that tough back-to-back going from Minneapolis down to Houston, but they won that game. I thought they would win in OKC, and for a half, I felt really, really good about that. And then, obviously, this game was what it was in a good win. Weirdly, I'm going to say that we can look at that second half against OKC and be like, man, that was horrible. I think within the locker room, as a player, first of all, you don't look at it the same way as you do as a fan. It's different. I think as a player, trying to get in their heads a little bit, you look at that game and you go, man, if we had just played our game, not gotten away from what we do, if we had just hit some shots, we would have won that game. And there's a weird kind of confidence, actually, that comes with that. Because you look at, I'm just trying to put myself in that locker room. You look at everybody now drooling over the OKC Thunder and what everybody's saying about the Thunder after that win. And you go, man, I can't even say the words I want to say, but like, that's everybody's going nuts for this Thunder team. We had it. We were playing our game and we were up big. So miss me with all that love and adoration for the Thunder, man. We just missed some shots. I feel like that's kind of like the attitude, like, yeah, we could have done things better. Yeah, we could have done, X, Y, and Z schematically. We could have made these better reads for sure. If we just play our normal game, totally different. If we hit a few shots, maybe we pull away. Maybe that's a 20-point win. You hit a few shots there in that third quarter. Now, granted, the OKC Thunder are a very good team, and that's they earned that win. Credit to them. They played amazing defense and all of that. But I'm just saying, from the Celtics perspective, you come out of this and you go, we beat Minnesota. That felt good. The whole Anthony Edwards thing afterwards, the way we defended, we feel good about that. Then we went to Houston, we beat Ime. That felt good. Came to Denver. Jokic, no Jokic, whatever. We closed strong. Feels good. Just missed that one half of basketball. It's the type of thing that makes you want to lock in as a basketball player. You just you're mad at yourself. And when you're mad at yourself a little bit, you're like, it's because right? When you're mad at yourself, it's because you can be better. Like, you've been mad at yourself, right? Like, whatever it is, whatever job you have, if you've made a mistake and you get mad at yourself, you're like, come on. I've done it on this podcast a million times. I've said something or I forgot to say something afterwards. I'm like, come on, John. It's because I know I'm better than that. So that confidence plays into Kristaps Porzingis after the game, talking about how he feels they are this close to turning a corner, right? He said it after the game with Abby, and he said it after the game in the locker room, basically saying that he feels like we're right on the edge of turning a corner and going on a nice run. Now, I said it with Tom Westerholm that I feel like this January schedule is a bit of a bear, but I also feel like the Celtics can come away with it, come out of January better than maybe people would expect. I think by the end of January, at some point on the podcast, I'd be like, if you just flip January and December, like we all thought December was going to be great and January might be tough. And it was December that was tough and January will be great. And I know it's only January 8th, so I'm more predicting here. But I'm okay with that happening because December, the more context we start to get about, okay, they look pretty good on this road trip, minus that second half against OKC. It's okay. Maybe there's something to being too comfortable and getting a little too lazy, and the weirdness of the NBA Cup schedule is just kind of throwing them off. And, Porzingis, no Porzingis, lineup changes and all of that stuff. A little too comfortable at home. And they didn't have that fire. And team meeting before this road trip, getting refocused on this road trip. I can see why there's some confidence here. All you need now is Porzingis to build on his best performance of the season so far, to build on some like the holiday starting to come around. Celtics shooting still not where it needs to be, but okay. Sam Hauser started to break out of it a little bit. Peyton Pritchard slipping a little bit. Need to get him back on board. Jaylen Brown, couple of tough, like he had that one scoreless second half against OKC. Scoreless for most of that first half against Denver. Is a long time for Jaylen Brown to be scoreless. Maybe you can figure that out a little bit, get that a little bit more consistent, get Tatum shot a little bit more consistent. It's kind of like putting the puzzle and spreading the pieces out on the table. And now you're like, oh, okay, here are the edges. And you put the edges around, like, okay, here's the barn, and here's the cow, and here's the tractor. Okay, I kind of see the picture here. And now you're arranging the pieces where they need to be. And now it's the part of, okay, let's put this thing together here. And honestly, if that's where the Celtics are, this is a pretty good spot to be. If you're heading into the middle of January and you're starting to put the pieces together, you're starting to see the picture, you're starting to figure out the nuance of this season. Joe had a very convoluted way of saying this, and before the game in a pregame interview where he's talking about unconscious mind and post-conscious mind. And I think what he's saying is the Celtics are trying to figure out how to win having won a championship versus teams that are chasing the championship. That's a whole new element to this season. They're figuring that out. They're starting to really get a feel for how much teams are celebrating the wins against them, more so than last year. OKC really celebrated that win against Boston. Teams are really up for, like, to a point where teams are treating a game against the Celtics like that's the finals. The Celtics are figuring that out. How do we perform? How do we get our heads where they need to be? And okay, now we're working these guys back in, and now we're getting our full lineup. And how are teams defending Porzingis differently? Porzingis after the game said that it's more frantic the way he's being defended. So there are a lot of elements, even though it's the same players and the same style, there's differences. There's There's differences in how they're executing that style. There's differences in how they're being defended. So how do you adjust while still playing that style? This is where they're starting to put it together. And if this is truly it, then Porzingis will be correct. If they're starting to get there, if they're starting to see it and figure it out and understand how to move forward, these next few weeks are going to be, like I said, with the puzzle, getting everything in place. And then February, March is snapping those pieces together. And then hopefully by April, you've got the full thing. You snap that last one in, you go, okay, now this is the full picture. Now let's rock. Timing is good. Like the timeline of how it's supposed to go during the course of a season is actually pretty good. So kind of right on the course, not on the same exact pace as last season, but pace can change depending on if the Celtics do actually go on a little bit of a run. We'll see. Friday night's going to be tough. Sacramento Kings, they are, obviously they fired Mike Brown. They're playing a little differently. They've got a little bit of juice. First game back after a road trip. That's always a little bit difficult. We'll see if the Celtics can carry it over and win that game Friday night. That will be a big win for them if they can do it, play well, and execute and do all of that stuff. We'll see. I will be there. Obviously, a couple more podcasts between now and then, but I will be there. Bonus podcast on Friday night after the Kings, hopefully a win over the Kings. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to watch the show on the YouTube page, Locked On Celtics YouTube page. Just search for that. Get into the comment section. Lots of great comments, lots of great conversation. I love seeing those threads, people replying to one another. Make this your community in that Celtics comment section because I think it's a great place for Celtics fans to kind of congregate. That would mean for all of you who are, and even for those of you who aren't, I would just love everybody to share the podcast, spread the word, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.